What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing Candy Jones, the bizarre case of a mind-controlled model. Now, I've been coming across information and articles about this particular case for years, but it's never really felt like the right time to bring it to the channel until now. Normally, it's just an instinctual thing when the time comes. It's like, I just know it in my gut. And for this one, that time is now. It's no big secret anymore, or at least it shouldn't be in this community, that there are all different types of government projects that lurk in the shadows and that are meant to stay secret forever, or at least until the government can no longer contain the information and can properly put some sort of benign spin on it to make it more favorable for them once the information is released. And also so that they can make it look better for themselves as they pretend they are disclosing the information because the masses have a right to know. We've seen this time and time again, especially recently. Disclosure. Yeah, you couldn't contain it anymore, so now you're going to get a spin doctor to tell us what's going on. Really, it's just whatever the experiment or secret projects were had too many witnesses to be able to unalive or silence, and the whole thing got too big to continue to cover up anymore. At least that's my humble opinion about it. Mind control projects and experiments seem like they have been around for at least as long as the government itself has, and it's long been the aim of the military and the governments, of which there are many, not just in the United States, but the United States included, to get regular, average citizens to do their bidding mostly without their consent or knowledge. And there's so many cases of this allegedly having happened throughout the years that I could talk about it each week for an entire year and still not even scratch the surface. The issue is, in most cases, the government spins everything in such a way that it makes the people coming forward with the information seem like they're crazy and like the whole thing is some sort of wild and bizarre conspiracy theory. Very little actual and factual information has been released over the last few decades that tells us exactly how far these government and military entities have gone with these types of experiments specifically. But there have been an overwhelming number of stories from people who have come to realize that they were involved. One such case is that of a pinup girl and fashion model who somehow became embroiled in a mind control project that allegedly turned her into some sort of sleeper cell agent that could be activated at their discretion at any given moment to do their bidding without her even knowing it. This information brought me down a giant rabbit hole and took me months to sort through and condense in order to be able to make it into a regular video for this channel. Lucky for you guys, rabbit holes are my specialty, and I never back down from a good investigative challenge. So, grab a snack and cuddle up under your favorite blankie as we take a trip into the corrupt and sinister, top secret area of mind control experiments and operations, full-blown espionage, this one involving a very famous fashion model, writer, and talk show host. Let's jump right in. Jessica Arlene Wilcox was born in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania in 1925, and before she became more famous and known as Candy Jones, she had a rough time in the beginning of her life. Despite being born into a wealthy family, Candy's father abandoned the family when she was just 3 years old, and up until that point, he had been extremely physically abusive towards her. Her mother wasn't any better, despite the fact that she at least stuck around, but it was to continue with more abuse towards the little girl. Her mother used to lock her in tiny, dark rooms as punishment for even the slightest perceived infraction, and she was often pawned off on other family members, bouncing from the home of one relative to the home of another, as though she were some sort of human hot potato. She never had a stable, loving home, and to cope with all of that loneliness and trauma, she developed relationships in her mind with numerous imaginary friends. As she got older, she became known for her incredible beauty and tall, statuesque physique, and just like so many other young women back in that time and even today who looked as beautiful as she did, she eventually got it in her head to pursue a modeling career. Once she got her first modeling job, it didn't take long for her life to turn around and for things to really start looking up for Candy Jones. She was immediately successful in her modeling career too, and she placed runner-up in the Miss America contest as Miss New Jersey. From there, she was hired as a hostess for the Miss America pageant, which catapulted her into fame unlike anything she had ever imagined up to that point. It didn't take long for her to legally change her name to Candy Jones, or for her to become a very popular, well-liked, and well-sought-after pinup girl. She appeared on the cover of numerous magazines at the time and was known as the most popular and most desired pinup girl during World War II. All throughout the 1940s, she was really sought after as a pinup girl, like I said, and she would often tour with the United Service Organizations, or the USO, where she performed fashion shows in the Southern Pacific for the troops, who, by the way, were always very excited to see her, as you can imagine. In 1946, with her marriage to a so-called fashion czar named Harry Conover, her trajectory to fame, fortune, and notoriety shot up even higher, and she gained an insane amount of clout as well. Harry Conover wasn't only one of the very first modeling agents, but he was also the creator of the cover girl concept. The couple had 3 children together, but despite that fact, it went south, their relationship, and turned sour, and they ended up divorcing in 1959. This was the start of the next chapter in Candy's life. It would turn out to be a highly strange and very bizarre road ahead for her. Trying to keep busy after a very public divorce, Candy kept herself busy by opening a modeling school and writing several books about beauty and fashion. She also became a radio personality, appearing regularly on NBC's weekend radio news program, The Monitor. As all of these amazing and tremendous things were happening to her and in her life, there were some somewhat bizarre things starting to happen behind the scenes and in the background at the same time. It's said to have started when a retired Army general whom she knew from her USO days in the South Pacific came into her modeling studio one day randomly and out of the clear blue sky and asked Candy if the FBI could use her office as a mail drop location. Not only that, but he wanted to know if she would also be willing to serve as a courier for them as well. It was definitely a strange request and one that seemingly came out of nowhere, but Candy felt like saying no would be very unpatriotic of her, and so she agreed to allow them to use her office, and she also agreed to be their courier. She delivered mail to the FBI while away on her frequent business trips, and she never thought anything of it at the time. It was all just business as usual. Not too long after the initial visit from the FBI and her old general friend, Candy delivered a letter to a doctor whom she knew from back in the war as well, as he had helped her to be cured of a serious illness she had come down with while touring in the Southern Pacific. His name was Dr. Gilbert Jensen, and at the time, sweet, innocent, and helpful, patriotic Candy Jones had no way of knowing and no reason to suspect that even that serious illness was all a part of a very sinister plot involving her that was just starting to play out without her knowledge. Candy just went about doing all of this business and went about her life as usual, and in 1972 she married a radio personality and host named John Neville after they had only been dating for 1 month. It was a whirlwind romance, that's for sure. As a result, she became a regular guest on her new husband's late-night radio talk show. This is more important than Candy understood, as the usual topics of discussion on that show were so-called conspiracy theories, UFOs, ghosts, and other typical paranormal and supernatural phenomena. I want to step out on a limb here and take a guess that this show was very unique for the time. It was probably more of a fringe radio show because, as far as I'm aware, or at least as far as I was aware up until this point, those types of things were not publicly discussed back then. Thinking more about it, though, it was probably merely for entertainment purposes and was looked at as nothing more than that, except maybe by some of the regular listeners and fans and people who even back then were having strange and somewhat bizarre experiences with otherworldly entities, paranormal, specters, etc. After all, just because it wasn't supposed to be spoken about back then, that doesn't mean that it wasn't happening just as much or even more so than today. While all of this was going on and she began guesting on his show more and more, John Neville started noticing something strange happening to his wife. Mainly that she would have bizarre episodes where she exhibited strange behavior that was very out of character for her. The usually calm, easygoing, and pleasant Candy started having mood swings, and without warning, she would become very confrontational and her demeanor would become harsh. The oddest thing was that her voice would change completely during those episodes and her tone would become low and very aggressive sounding. These so-called episodes would come on quickly and out of nowhere, and they would be gone just the same way, and Neville would call it, quote, the voice, a look, and a few moments of bitchiness, end quote. The thing was, Candy had no memory at all of any of it happening and no memory at all of anything she had said or done during those few moments of time. mainly because of her lack of memory of the situations and her own actions, words, and behaviors, and because of the fact that he knew his wife well enough that he believed her when she said she couldn't recall it. He started to suspect something more sinister than what met the eye was happening. He knew Candy had worked for the FBI at one point in her life delivering mail, and honestly, at first I thought it was strange that his mind would immediately go there. But remember, his job was to talk about conspiracy theories and things like mind control and extraterrestrials, etc. every single night. He knew she had always been extremely vague about the trip she had made for the agency, almost like she couldn't really remember what she had done or what she had been tasked to do when completing the seemingly simple and mundane missions for them. Because he thought there was more information available and that something very sinister was happening, but that it was locked inside of his wife's mind, he decided to try and hypnotize her to see what he could find out, and also because he wanted to help her. He wanted to ease her mind with what was happening with these weird mood swings and acting out of character like that, because it really upset her because she couldn't remember doing it and had no control over when it happened. He loved her, and she always seemed so upset, dazed, and confused after those episodes. He was only trying to help her. However, that help, when it came to the hypnosis, would unravel a deep, dark secret that no one was ever meant to find out about, specifically not Candy herself, and it would put both she and her new husband in imminent danger. The process opened up a whole rabbit hole of mind control and conspiracies that no one was prepared for. It didn't take long with her being under hypnosis before John found a whole alternate personality lurking within the depths of his wife's subconscious mind, there in the darkest recesses of it. Candy's best imaginary friend as a child, the one she used most to help her cope with her hard and lonely life, was named Arlene. Wouldn't you know it, the main personality lurking within Candy's mind had the exact same name. Arlene was aggressive, blunt, and spoke in a tone that most of the time wasn't much above an actual snarl. It was so low. John was already familiar with the voice and attitude of Arlene because it was she who was the one who was seeping through to the surface in those moments when his wife would cease to be herself for a little bit but then not remember it at all. As the hypnosis sessions continued, Arlene would have a major role to play in the various memories that John would drudge up in Candy's past. These were memories she wasn't consciously able to remember, and that would turn out to be extremely sinister and would paint just as sinister a picture regarding details of the help she had thought she had been giving to the FBI. It would turn out that Dr. Jensen had invited her to take part in the same type of delivery missions that she was doing for the FBI, for the CIA, in return for a large sum of money. And Candy had agreed. However, she didn't know what she was agreeing to. She couldn't have. That's when the next sordid and sinister chapter of her life would begin to unfold. The CIA instructed Candy Jones to procure a passport under an alias, and she was told that she would be traveling abroad frequently to carry out covert missions. He also started injecting her with what he called vitamins, which he claimed were merely a formality to make sure that she was functioning at optimal levels at all times, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It was all done in the name of keeping her healthy. At least that's what he told her. She had no reason not to believe this doctor, as if you remember, he had been the one to help save her life when she had come down with that strange and seemingly deadly illness while entertaining the troops in the South Pacific. Once she got the passport, whenever she was given her next assignment or mission, she would use the alias and put on elaborate disguises so that no one would recognize her. She would travel all around the country and the world, making mysterious deliveries, but she never really remembered any of it. At least, she didn't remember enough that she would be able to tell anyone about it, but she remembered enough that she was able to give vague answers to anyone who asked what she was doing, who happened to ask her. Little did she know there was something very sinister happening with these deliveries, and also what was being done to her without her knowledge or consent. The reality of the situation was that Dr. Jensen was allegedly a part of a secret mind control program with the CIA, and the purpose was to make spies and assassins that could be quote-unquote turned on and carry out whatever business they were told to without having any memory of it or asking any questions about it. In Candy's case, Dr. Jansen had somehow and at some point, again, probably while he was treating her for that strange illness abroad, hypnotized her and found the hidden personality of Arlene that she had created as a scared and lonely little girl with no coping mechanisms to be able to deal with the horrific things the grown-ups in her life had been doing to her, the abandonment issues, and always feeling so unwanted, like nobody wanted her. Jensen had then taken the time to groom Arlene into becoming her own personality and made it so she could be activated and completely take over as a whole other entity to carry out these missions independently of Candy herself. It sounds crazy, but this is just one case of who knows how many out there that this was done to people. Probably still is today. And this is a lot of what I'm talking about when I say that I believe, at least to some extent and some of the time, men in black are sleeper cell agents as well. Regular people that are put through this. Ironically, or maybe not, Candy had chosen Arlene as her code name in all of this as well. With rigorous hypnosis and mind control chemicals he injected into her body, the vitamins, this was all happening without Candy's knowledge and without her ever even being suspicious that anything untoward and sinister was going on. After the initial work and grooming of Arlene was done, she was then brought to various CIA camps to be trained in the art of assassination and espionage. She wasn't only trained in the art of espionage, though. Arlene was trained in hand-to-hand combat, weapons, explosives, and assassination methods, as well as how to resist pain and deal with torturous interrogation techniques. Candy Jones would never remember anything about the missions except vague details that she never gave much thought to beyond she was delivering mail. She had been programmed to turn off whenever Arlene was activated and go out on the mysterious and dangerous missions. She would be in disguise and had various gadgets, one of which was a poisonous lipstick, so that, if necessary, she could unalive herself. Arlene carried out all kinds of experimental missions for the CIA, and throughout it all, Candy had no idea ever of what was happening. She was just going about her life as usual. She literally only ever remembered that she sometimes delivered mail as a courier for the FBI and then the CIA. If all of what was being uncovered during the hypnosis sessions between John and Candy was true, then the CIA had succeeded in creating the perfect sleeper agent, one that could be activated and deactivated at their will and their whim, and would leave Candy's mind totally blank about all of it, giving her plausible deniability throughout and afterwards. John recorded hundreds of hours of these hypnosis sessions as evidence of what was going on, and in 1976, it was all brought to the public's attention when John and Candy gave Donald Bain permission to write his book, The Control of Candy Jones, based on the recordings. The following year, things would become even more interesting when the public was officially made aware that the CIA had, in fact, been experimenting with mind control in a program I am researching more into and have been for a while, and that most of us in this community are familiar with, Project MKUltra. MKUltra was being directed by the Office of Scientific Intelligence within the CIA in coordination with the United States Army Biological Warfare Laboratories. Despite all of the evidence to back up what he was claiming, Nebel's claims were met with a lot of skepticism, but a lot of that had to do with his own credibility. He was known publicly because of his show as a prankster and hoaxer, and mostly the public thought the whole thing was with Candy was just too bizarre for them to be able to believe at that time. Considering the only real evidence was the recordings of Jones as she was under hypnosis and the fact that she was a large part of his radio show and at that point his wife, not enough people believed the two of them and their claims for anything to have really come from their trying to expose the CIA for what they had done to Candy without her consent and without even her basic knowledge. However, it didn't end there because author Donald Bain claimed he had more than enough evidence to back up those tapes and everything said on them by Candy herself while under the hypnosis. Bain was able to get information from the people who were around her most at the time, who said that she would often leave her modeling jobs and even her own studio suddenly and without warning to go on unscheduled trips where she would disappear for any length of time imaginable. There was never any planning or forewarning to the people she was working for with the modeling, or who worked for her, or those she taught at her own studio. There was also a passport found in her possession for someone named Arlene Grant that showed Candy in a dark wig and a lot of makeup, and she had no memory of that picture ever being taken of or of purchasing those things herself. There was also a letter found that was written to Candy's attorney, a man named William Williams, that was said to have had her covered in case she disappeared or died suddenly or under unusual circumstances. While it's not exact evidence that she was a mind-controlled super spy sleeper agent, it certainly suggests she was at the very least involved in some sort of covert activity of a dangerous nature that she wasn't at liberty to discuss with anyone. One way or another, and whatever the case was, Candy Jones died at the age of 64 of cancer while living in Manhattan, New York, taking all of these secrets to the grave with her. I don't know why people say she took the secrets to the grave with her, because she didn't remember any of it. But I guess she can't be hypnotized if she's deceased, so that makes sense now. So guys, I would be remiss of my duties here if I didn't at the very least point out that we have yet another person involved in speaking out about so-called conspiracy theories and talking about things they believe the government had done to them, things that were supposed to forever remain quiet if we are to believe anything I've brought to you all here today, dying of cancer. This is time and time and time again, and if you follow my channel, I noticed this and mentioned it first when I talked about extraterrestrial activity and strange deaths a couple of months ago. Though I'll admit off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact name of that video specifically, but it's all there. How many people die in this way when they're seemingly a danger to top secret and experimental government programs? Of course, there's been a lot of speculation as to the veracity of all of this and a lot of skepticism regarding John Neville's wild claims, but both he and Candy herself always insisted and were adamant that it was all true and that they had no reason whatsoever to make it up and paint a target on their backs. They also never once deviated from or changed any part of their story. So, is it possible? In my opinion, it's more than that, and it's very probable that it did happen, plausible even. They took someone who was naive and thought she was doing her friend a favor, repaying a man she was led to believe had saved her life, and she was also made to feel like it was her patriotic duty during a time of war when many people were being accused of being spies for other countries against our own. And they turned her into a sleeper cell. I can't say with 100% certainty, but my instincts tell me that Candy was made into a secret sleeper agent by the CIA, possibly by the FBI as well, but that the government, even in modern society, has the average citizen so conditioned to think things like this are nothing more than wild conspiracy theories to make you think that you're the idiot for believing in any of it, that they've more than done their job at putting reasonable doubt into the minds of millions. However, I would hope for more from the people in this community and my gemstones here on this channel, and that you would all at the very least consider the evidence with an open mind. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, and if you enjoyed hanging out with one another in the premiere. So thank you guys so much. My book, Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, was #1 for days and days on Amazon. It was fantastic. If you guys want a signed copy, please hit me up, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com, before making the purchase, okay? The companion book of all encounters, so nothing but encounters with black-eyed kids, called Midnight Visitors, is going to be out way before February 13th. Just figuring one more thing out. And maybe by the time you guys are seeing this on Monday, it will have already been uploaded. But it's coming out real soon, guys. So if you got the first one, The Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, you guys are going to want to get the companion book. I'm telling you, they go together. And then I'm working on the 5th book, Campfire Stories with Gemma Jade, which is going to be a series depending on how well it does and sells and the reviews. It'll be a very long series, and it's going to coincide with a new show, Campfire Stories with Gemma Jade, I'm going to be doing on this channel. If you bought any of my books, please go to Amazon, rate them 5 stars, give them a positive review. That helps me so much. Okay, it costs nothing. It takes only a moment of your time, and I really do appreciate it. For anything else, any other correspondence, if you have an encounter with something strange, extraterrestrial, otherworldly, supernatural, paranormal, etc. in the woods, and you want it to be a part of my Campfire Stories with Gemma Jade book, book 5, technically book 6, email it to me. Let me know if you want to remain anonymous and give me your explicit permission to use it in my book. If you just want to send a story in of any encounter anywhere that you've had throughout your life with the same types of entities and beings and figures, email it to me as well, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com, and I will make it a part of listener encounters. Guys, if you haven't become a member yet, I believe it's $4.99 a month, and the more members I get, the more I can do for members. Okay, so members only live streams, members only contests. There's so many things that I want to do, but I would need more than 9 or 10 members to be able to get that stuff done. For ways to donate to the channel, donations are very, very important right now as I'm waiting for my next writing contract. Those are my only income, besides, of course, the books where I get paid every 6 months on those, okay? So PayPal, Cash App, Amazon wish list gift link, all right? And the links to, the affiliate links to all of my books, Missing the Faith Theory, Encounters with Evil, 101 True and Terrifying Stories, Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis and Beyond, and Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, as well as Midnight Visitors. Hopefully it's up and out by the time this video comes out on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. They'll all be in the description box. If you use the affiliate link to purchase the book, I just get a kickback from Amazon on top of my percentage that I already make from my books. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It doesn't take away from anybody. I'm the author, so it's just me getting more of my own money, basically, as an incentive from Amazon and a kickback to me. The schedule, the tentative schedule, for the most part, 98% of the time, the schedule for the week on this channel will be in the description box. Guys, love and light, okay? Be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today you're amazing, you're beautiful, and you can do and be anything that you want through the power of positivity, the power of positive thinking and positive speaking, the power of manifestation, okay? But you got to put the work behind it. If nobody told you today, I believe in you, I got your back, you got this, you are a badass, you are a rock star. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.